Do you think people should be about attempting to build culturally specific language models or data sets with images, video, the wide range of these? I thought I was on my last question, so one more after this. So the question of building data sets that stay within the community to some extent, you can't really keep them fully contained, but that culturally specific work with some borders around it versus putting together these archives that would be part of larger language models. What are your thoughts about culturally specific AI tools and systems?
I'm going to make this really quick, because when I think about the Marcus Garvey project, and we've been writing about our work in this area, and I've kind of likened it to the Oracle and Matrix. Have everybody see the Matrix?
No.
Yeah. How dare you? I know you young children haven't seen the Matrix. Need help is what y'all need. Y'all don't know nothing. But if you saw the Matrix, right, then you know that the Oracle exists, and my wholehearted belief is that somebody black created the Oracle, right, as a figure that is antithetical to the very nature of the Matrix itself, what it wants to propagate. So I think it could be two things. I think that we can create something that acts as a kind of hidden challenge, pushback, that undermines these negative systems and turns it into something else, right? But I also think we can create our own things that are important to us, unique to the black experience. So, because I've talked about blockchain, for example, blockchain can be utilized because of the way it is encrypted to collect information about police brutality, and it would encrypt on both sides of the input output who put the information in, so that you would be able to keep data right on the issue of police brutality without exposing people.
Right.
So that is something that is unique to our own experience that we could utilize, technology for, not just blockchain, but AI as well.
Yeah. Just to underscore one quick thing before we pass it to Doc, and then we'll wrap up with kind of a charge or some things to think about for all of you. So I hear you saying that Legba, or if you're coming out of New Orleans, Papa Laba, Oshun, Anansi, Brer Rabbit, signifying monkey, that the spirit of those characters can inform what we do with these tools and systems. Come on in.
Well, when you think about how this information is incorporated into things like ChatGPT or some of these other generative models, they come to it from a perspective that is not necessarily from the culture.
Yeah.
And so you can summarize something, but you don't necessarily have a full understanding of what that is because it's been described or summarized from a perspective that's outside of complete understanding. However, when you told me about, I think, Dr. Fraser, you told me about Black Chat GPT, one of your colleagues. Yeah, and so when I first went to that, I thought it was going to be something that would be what we all thought it would be, from the culture, using.
You talking about the Latimer Project?
I think that.
Oh,
yes,
Jesus,
exactly.
no.
Exactly. But it wasn't necessarily that, right?
It wasn't.
So when I think about
It's
how
one of us there, but it ain't for us.
Right, exactly. Having culturally specific models is crucial for not only maintaining our culture, but also incorporating our voice into this whole sea of voices that's going to become this whole ocean of generative AI tools.
Absolutely. So we've been a lot of places in these 45 minutes to an hour, right? So we want to put a temporary wrap on this and then open it up to all of you. So the GCUFF audience is creators, it's folks who appreciate film. GCUFF has been doing some outreach to broaden the audience in the last several years, thanks to Felicia and thanks to Donna and folks like that. Let's give the group one last thing, what you would like the wide range of folks in this room, like one thing they can take away to play with, experiment with, or think about as they deal with the tensions and the possibilities with these tools. Let's start off with you and you get the last word.
Well, I'd like for everybody to try a generative AI tool that deals with video, maybe Runway or Mystique or perhaps Sonora, I think it is, Gemini. Many of them have generative video tools, and incorporate some of us into that and see what you get. and continue to iterate that and create something, a 3, a 5, a 7-minute short, and see what comes out of that. And I'd love to see some of that output that would be specifically related to our culture.
I gotta say this, you being the Trekkie that you are, before I pass the mic to you. So in Star Trek Discovery, so that's the one that has a sister as the captain.
Yes.
There comes a point in one of the later seasons where they start to call the computing system Zora, with a specific reference to Zora Neale Hurston. And so there's a whole lot that we could do with that.
Right.
But where the culture and the tech come together, give us something you want the group thinking about as we prepare to leave.
Well, this is a bit of a warning because Tyler Perry was building this massive
Oh, Lord.
Atlanta.
He wasn't paying writers before AI.
No, he wasn't, and that's my point. But anyway, I mean, that's the truth. Let's just call it what it is. The bottom line is that it's going to be incumbent on creators to be more and more independent and collective with each other. Because the more that AI is utilized by these large movie production houses, the more the sort of creative spaces will be pushed out and the oxygen, right, will be taken out of the room because they no longer have to ask you. They no longer have to engage you to do this work. This is why the SAG-AFTRA strike went on, is that they wanted to use the face of all these various actors.
In perpetuity.
Yes, forever.
Never.
I mean, and you knew they wanted to mix faces too, right? At some point they were going to be mixing people, and you're going to get a little bit of Denzel mixed with some Tom Cruise. And you just be like, you don't know what monster these people are. Jurassic Park. I mean, this is what happens when you give people that kind of power. You don't know what the splicing is going to give you. Right? You're going to be running through the woods screaming for your life.
Not running through the woods.
But I think that this is where collective power is so important. That you could, and this is how a lot of art was born out of the 1970s. When you think about it, right? The African American literary movement is out of these collective.
The LA Rebellion in film.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that in one way or another, we're going to have to come back into that space and work together and act as a pushback against these forces.
First of all, can we give our scholars some love and some gratitude, y'all? Amazing in commentary. They didn't know where I was going to try to take them.
No.
We wanted to keep the spirit of improvisation alive because these are two people, like I said, not only leading the nation, but they've really been about that work, and they've really been about us in all of their work. So we want to open it up to things that you want to talk about, that you're curious about. Since we have the mics, and there's not enough cord to get them up, we'll listen for your question, and I'll repeat it into the microphone. But tell us your name and then whatever your question or comment you want to make, and then we'll bring our guests into that conversation. Yes, sir, right here.
Fellow scholar myself, Dr. James J. Williams,
All right,
Cleveland,
Dr.
now living in the DMV in Maryland.
All right, Dr. Williams.
Thank you, but more importantly, retired military, 31 years.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What
branch?
Above the Frame will be playing on Sunday at 3 p.m. Check
Let's
it out.
go.
So I'm going to bring a perspective in this conversation. I like where it's going. Both of your perspectives are great. I would caution anyone who's going into the space, and particularly going into the military, this would not be a discussion. Because in the military, as we are preserving our natural resources, we don't have the luxury of playing in AI, if
Wow.
you will, because there are lives at stake. Obviously, we're seeing things that happen overseas and so forth.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to mention is that if used responsibly, AI can be a fantastic tool. And so it really is in the eyes of the beholder,
Right.
i.e. programmer. The last thing I'll say is while it's important to have African Americans at the table, what happens is a new HBCU grad gets excited, gets their degree, they got a job, but their intellectual property goes to corporate spaces
That's
and
right.
never sees the light of day. And while they know that,
Yeah.
that's very disheartening if they're trying to set up their own enterprise. And so I would just say have some awareness of where you want to take
Yeah.
your property, your IT, your AI,
Right.
Right.
and independent is the way to go, man.
I really appreciate you raising that. So Malefi Asante's son, Malefi Asante Jr. had it was an idea he would share with students all the time when he would visit schools. He said, you got to have 2 sets of notes. You know, you got the notes you're taking for the class and whatever that instructor has put together, and you got to have something you keep over here for yourself. And I hear that in your comment about people who engage with these companies. But another part that this tacit in what you shared with us, bro, is that so much of what we come to see as technological advancement in the public sphere, the public sector, comes to us directly out of military experimentation. From the earliest days of the internet, going back to ARPANET, to even these AI tools, you know, the ways they're used for weapon systems, the ways they're used for mapping. And so I think that line in the innovation or diffusion curve needs a lot of attention too. But to your point about the independence, this is one reason I'm so happy that both of our scholars have talked about the need for collectives away from whatever we might do for work or whatever we might do in school. Really appreciate your comment, bro. His film, 3 o'clock on Sunday. Check it out. Hello, in the back.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the film producer. My film, it's basic, shows tonight at 8:30. It's about guaranteed income programs. We have a couple of people from Cleveland, Universal Basic Employment, and
Yes.
Legally Able Society. Anyway, please come.
No, I appreciate that plug. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. From a film producer's perspective, we work a lot with archival houses, and we pay a fortune in rights to use material and videos and stuff like that. Can you talk about your thoughts about AI coming into this space, how they're going to be able to preserve the copyright, if there's going to be any flexibility, if let's say you take an image and you tweak it a little bit, just your thoughts about how that's going to play out in the future?
Bluetooth pairing.
Either of you have a response to that?
Yeah, because this is why I sort of invoke the hip hop rules here. Is this on? Okay. This is why I invoke the hip hop rules, because I think, and by the way, you know, having dealt with copyright, I understand very much the issues. And I used to work at the King Center, which there was, you know, a lot of copyright around using Dr. King's image, right? Assuming they'll even let you do it.
Right.
And so this is where the sort of hip hop portion comes in, because I think ultimately the road is going to be more of a sort of compilation approach, right? Both a kind of creative representation based on actual archival material. And that's what you can do right now with AI. Now, whether that's justified or ethical, again, these are conversations that have to be had, but I think people are on the road to doing these things anyway. Right, and I think what comes to my mind most immediately is and I'm not sure this is AI, but this is, you know, you can see images of Frederick Douglass, and the images move, right, and you can see him blinking his eye and that kind of thing. And so in that space, right, that's an archival photo, but the AI is doing something totally different, right, with that image. And there are 2 ways to look at it. I mean, well, not just 2 ways. You can say it's creepy, right? There's that. But it's also bringing history alive and people alive. I've spoken to a number of people who have animated their lost loved ones, right? So there's this incredible sort of possibility and then this problematic set of circumstances at the same time. I don't know if that answered your question, but I think it's
It's like it's changing. The image is changing. How now?
right.
So as someone who also had the King estate denied permission to use an image, just a quick sidebar, for my first book, they both know about this. I had a cover designed by someone. I thought it was a beautiful cover, and this will date me also. I had images of Dr. King and Malcolm talking smack to each other on IM, on Instant Messenger, as a way of suggesting the kind of broader unity and the familial element. But yeah, King Estate said, no, we ain't having none of that. We don't like the fact that you didn't have him in the traditional suit. We definitely ain't having you use his image using AAVE. But anyway, that's the sidebar.
Let me say this real quick, just to give you a sense of how these things work without you knowing it. There is an image of Dr. King at the airport, and part of the MLK exhibit, I think, is in in Atlanta. you'll notice that he is sitting there with a cigarette. But they actually wanted to take that image, that cigarette
Right.
out, right? So in a way, right, people are sort of controlling these things
Yes.
anyway.
And you set up the point I wanted to make before I pass the mic to Dr. Carter. So, along with that image in the ATL airport, there is a whole genre that is hilarious, mostly in Atlanta, but it spread some because of the digital. Martin Luther King Day party flyers.
Oh, yeah.
where kind of the vernacular, everyday folks have taken the power of this image and used it satirically, lovingly, outrageously. And so my point here in response to your question, since we have such precedent of all of these large companies or startups that are able to get huge investment, just snatching everything to build into their models, I in the hip hop tradition, in the tradition of remix, I can imagine a vernacular underground approach to snatching stuff to build into models for archives that have broader use and applicability that might be shared more openly, and put some pressure on this idea that it's only the huge corporations or those with huge amounts of money that can build these archives for their own uses, right? So what would a copyleft approach to building archives out of these materials look like, in communal hands? But with that, let me just pass it over.
Well, what I think we're going to find is that we're going to find more instances of groups, demographics that are going to start to hold on to their archives, just like many of the Native American nations out west.
That's right.
That don't want to share anything simply because of this, because they're afraid that people are going to misuse their information, misrepresent their information, or things that are sacred for a variety of reasons. And so when I think about the ways that these archives can be used, accessed, and manipulated, I think we may find that if this continues, that some of these archives might start just really shutting their access down, or making it so that you can only use very limited amounts of their archives for a variety of reasons.
Yep.